Greetings and welcome to this edition of ISSIP-Live. Kevin Clark here. We're delighted to have Markus with a K, Markus Warg here, all right? And Jim, you've known Markus for a long time, all right? He's going to be sharing translating service science design to impact. That sounds great, all right? So having spent, quite a bit of time in the world of design and trying to elevate it to new heights of affecting organization transformation, this sounds like something I'm going to enjoy. Jim, anything you want to add about Markus's background since you've known him a lot longer than I have?
Well, I'll just say that I met Markus through IBM financial leaders in Germany because Markus
Mm.
was doing some very innovative stuff with on the board of some insurance and finance companies. But like many good ISIP people, he is both industry and academic. And he's at the University of Hamburg, where leads the Center for Service Design. And we have collaborated on a number of different things, but I'll just end briefly with if you haven't read our book, Service in the AI Era, that I co-authored with Markus, Paul Maglio, and Steve Vargo, I'll go ahead and actually upload that to the chat so people can download it.
Fantastic.
But
Well, I'm sure
great job.
everybody's looking forward to reading that. Markus, I'll just add that having spent some time at IBM, I was a PEP executive, which meant that focus, right, for Deutsche Bank, right, among Deutsche Telekom and Deutsche Bank as PEP assignments along with NASA. The German companies didn't, help me think about going into space, but they certainly stretched my imagination about what they were doing. So we're delighted to have you with us, and the floor is yours.
Yes, thank you very much for the invitation. Great pleasure. Thank you, Jim, for the introduction. Yeah, Kevin, great, and looking forward for a nice talk and curious about the things interesting for the ISIP community.
Yep, fantastic. So I'm going to put myself back in for a second. You are, you've got your own consulting company and you're part of a university. So you have a wonderful perspective between the practical implications of, doing service design, all right, and service science design, and trying to get it across, right, as a discipline academically, right? So that's a great intersection. What are you learning as the result of the friction between the real world and the academic world about service science?
Yeah, thank you, Kevin. I go back a little bit. I've been working for insurance board, or was a member of the board for 17 years. The last 10 years is Signal Iduna, around about 14,000 employees. And during the whole time, I realized that the appreciation for the service teams is underrepresented. So you have product teams, you have sales teams, and everybody has a great appreciation, but nobody realized the high impact that the service teams had, solving frictions between their expectation and the value proposition of the insurance companies. So, and that was why I started to be interested to found or to seek and found some explanations. And in 2008, I supplied my curriculum into a university in Hamburg, and because the focus there was service and service science, and I never heard before that there's a practice like service science and a theory like service science. And in this process, I met Bo Edwardson, one famous representative from here, Nordic School and Sweden. And after some months I worked for this university, Bo came to me and said, Markus, all our talks are turning about the centrality of service. Do you know Steve Vargo? Do you know Jim Spohrer? Do you know Paul Maglio? I didn't know them there. And so I started to read and to learn about service dominant logic, to learn about service science, service systems, service system entities, all this. And to be short in this introduction, and there I found the mechanisms and the interplay of the mechanisms, how everything works together and can be explained. And therefore, Kevin, at the beginning, that was very, very helpful for my years in the board and for my work in academic areas.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So you want to unpack a little bit about our key theme here, translating service design to it's service design to impact, right? So ultimately what you're suggesting is it's nice to write about it, it's nice to understand it, but let's do something about it.
Perfect. Exactly that. And I'm very happy we had a great session in Istanbul in the human side of service engineering track with Christine Leitner, with Clara Bassano. Clara is in this round. Great to have you here, Clara. And as always, Kevin, in these nice conferences, we, the academic staff, are introducing what is possible and how the theory sees the practice and what the practice should do to become more impactful. But
Well, you
it is
weren't just there, you won an award, right, at the conference. Good for you.
I
Congratulations.
confirm, I can confirm.
Yeah, thank you. But what was the trigger for this translational service research and design methodology? Was that we want to create real impact, not to explain what should be and what we see from an academic point, what could be better than it is today, but to go to the point, to the friction, to the problem, and interpret the problem as a design element and solve the problem. So I don't know if it is interesting for this round. I can give a short introduction to TSRDM in the 8 steps with a short intro. Is this fine for you?
Absolutely. I think that that would be a great way to proceed so that we have a platform for good questions in just a little while.
You're welcome. So I just start with, we start with the problem with a translational gap. And the question normally is, oh, now it's getting difficult. And we say, no, it's a gap between knowledge and impact, between a scientific discovery and a service innovation. And let's just take one simple example. If you have an induction cook table, this scientific discovery has core advantage. It needs less energy and it has a better time to market than the traditional energy hubs and cook tables. So that's in our case, in our example, that's the scientific discovery. And you are used normally, Clara, homage to Italy, with your aluminium bialetti to cook your coffee. But now you put it onto the induction stuff and you realize it doesn't work because the induction stuff, cook table, brings the energy to the point and needs a ferromagnetic, a steel element to transport the energy into the coffee machine. And this coffee machine is from aluminium. So there's a gap, a translational gap between the energy produced from the induction stuff and in our case, from the scientific discovery and from the impact to have in a shorter time to market cycle and with less energy to have our mocha or coffee from the Bialetti coffee machine. So we start always, what is the gap? And now we have a gap, it's a translational gap, it's between the inductive stuff and the coffee machine. And then we have with this team, we have an 8-step, and I just go through the steps. The first step is identification of the gap we have done now. The second step is give a perception, give the observation. What is the phenomenon? Normally it works, coffee, energy, water, hot steam through the coffee ground, producing mocha or coffee. In our case, we observe nothing has happened. We analyze the mechanisms. The third step is to build a nice and adequate knowledge base. And here we're coming to the centrality of service science and service dominant logic. we have a lot of excellent theories, but at the core of nearly everything is collaboration. It's the mutual value creation. In our case, it's the creation between the cook table and the coffee machine, but we can do it on any other use case and translational get to. And what I'm enthusiastic about service science since I heard of it 2008 is service science explains how service systems mutually create value, interconnected by value propositions. So the third step, to come back to our eight-step process of TSRDM, is building a knowledge base, and out of this knowledge base, we derive the objectives and core mechanisms, which could be interesting to overcome the frictions. And in this case, we then see, okay, the friction is characterized between the gap, and we need something like a ferromagnetic tool. And then we elevate and develop services. We call them translational services helping to overcome the friction, to overcome the gap. One example is this plate. This is a kind of ferromagnetic plate. And if you put this on your inductive cook table and then the coffee machine on it, you overcome the translational gap. You bridge the friction. And the cook table works for your coffee machine, and the mocha is produced in less time with impact of the scientific discovery. So that is translational services. That's a step 4. And afterwards, we look, how can we design very, very concrete solutions? Because if you take now only this this steel element without a plastic grip, it is helpful, but you will not like to touch it with your hands. So we have to think, how can we create very concrete solutions for our problem? And then the element from service design is coming into the core mechanisms. And then we look how it works and then say, hey, this could be one solution. We can build a plastic grip on that. Another solution can be, if we have only one coffee machine, we can change the bottom of the coffee machine and put the ferromagnetic, the steel element here, so we can put this coffee machine instead of the aluminum coffee machine. But as you know me, I have a lot of coffee machines. This small one I like, and Clara, it's again a Bialetti. Yeah? So if you have more than one, then this solution can be better because it works for all the machines you have. So this kind of thinking, always coming from the beneficiary, his experience, want to have his mocha, working backwards, designing what could be the best solution out of his perspective. And after implementing this kind of solutions, to have a look, how does it work for him? And bring all the knowledge we built into this process with the 7th and 8th step back to the knowledge. And that's a fantastic methodology. I'm really enthusiastic. It has worked out. Let me just name a very, very great team. It is at the core, it is Jim. Thank you very much from this place. And today, again, always more than helpful. Very, very inspiring all the years. And we have Thilo Böhmann as a vice president from Uni Hamburg. We have CEOs from health and medical area. We have leading software engineering capabilities. We have Christina Leitner. We have Luca Carubo. We have now very happy to join that Clara Bassano will join the team too. So we have an amazing team. And sorry for the long explanation, Kevin, but what we experience in Istanbul, to come back to your introduction, that the whole plenum and all the people really love to be very concise, very concrete, to talk about problems, to see the problem as design elements, and to see how we build solutions with real impact, and that the academics not are only talking about it and giving the best theories.
Outstanding. Let me ask Clara to come on in and join us for a second. You were in Istanbul with Markus, right?
Yes, I was there. I was co-chairing with Christine Lettner and Debra Satterfield the Human Side of Service Engineering conference. And I had the pleasure to give also this award to Markus.
Yeah, that's great. And Christine is a great member of ISSIP. It's great that you're joining the Marcus's team.
Yeah. I am an ISSIP ambassador since 2013. So at the early beginning of this association. So I really am very honored to be part as ambassador for Italy. So we have to do more. And this year, I would like to involve other academias also from Naples, even not only universities, but even the Institute of Universal Art of Design that participated also at the conference in Istanbul. So we're trying to get involved with much people.
Great. Well, thank you for starting off as an ambassador and continuing to grow the science and the profession. So I want to, if you were sitting in my seat, right, and
Yes.
hosting this, what question do you want everyone to hear Markus answer? You ask a question.
Yeah. Markus, what kind of real case study would you tell us about the real examples of this model application?
Yeah. So
To
I
other
can.
sector, I mean, your metaphor was great. I enjoyed very much the use of this metaphor to better understand why this approach is important. But do you think it can be applied also to other sector? And for example, which sectors?
Yeah, I think we have seen in your track, in your fantastic track, Clara, we have seen some very good and impactful examples. We had a media translational gap and the approach to overcome it from a CEO of Börsenzeitung, iconic paper in Germany, the most expensive financial markets paper in Germany, and the friction there is to transform from print medium to a digital community platform. And the CEO, elaborated all his translational gaps and translational services to overcome them. We had another example is Germany's #1 university health and medicine #1 in Germany is called Charité in Berlin. They have the fast follower strategy and overcoming gaps in digital transformation to adapt solutions to their system of records. And they describe exactly their problems as translational gaps and and all these papers are open access in our conference, in the AHFE conference. We have OVB, a financial market example. We have in Germany, I'm a consultant for OnPeers, a startup, a health, a mobility startup, a leading startup in Germany, all this. So we see this kind almost and working in all the companies. And if it's okay, I would just like to add a little bit the thinking and the theory underlying. Is this fine, Clara or Kevin, or is it not the right topic for it?
Absolutely. Sounds good to me. Claire's nodding her head and thumbs up. So go ahead.
Yes.
We like it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Please.
So no, I just want to give an explanation. And this is a picture, and you see five persons on it. And I just give a very, very short explanation to get the feeling. And that's the basic for Clara, for your answer, to be honest. So it started with the person interviewed Kevin by you in the first version of this great format, and it was Don Norman. And Don Norman explained that this is not just a product, but we should see it from a perspective that this is carrying services. It's one service it carries liquidity, and if it's a bit big in its wall, it holds the liquidity warm. And Everett Gumerson extended this approach and explained not only products are rendering services, it's also activities. And what I think is very big step was from Steve Vargo and his colleague Lasche, that they say, hey, we understand all these products, activities, everything, carrying services, and we integrate this all into service in the singular as a process of applying resources for the benefit of another. So he took everything together, but then you have only a process, and it is a big step. You have the process of collaboration and to explain the elements, but it doesn't work without the systems thinking. And that's it's only half of the game if you have processes, but each process changes its context. And that phenomenon, you need a service system thinking to explain how the state of the systems and each system and the systems and the ecosystem connected to each other. How is the state of the system changed by the process? And that was the fourth person on my slide. That's Jim and Paul bringing the service science idea and the
Yes.
ecology service system. So important. And I just came and say, oh, that's fantastic. Thank you very much, Steve. Thank you very much, Jim. And I took this and built something like, I don't want to describe it, an architecture where you can bring together, and that's my last foundation, where you bring together processes and the structure of systems. And architecture for me, and that I go back to Giddens, the duality of structure. Structure is the medium and output of the practices it recursively organizes. So
excuse me, Markus, according to what you are explaining, is exactly what the service science perspective says when it focuses on the importance to shift from the function to the role. So this is exactly coherent with the service science perspective, the importance to shift from the function to the role. So probably perfect. Explaining this could help even to better understand this architecture and this framework, in my opinion.
So
it can help me.
Exactly that, and exactly that, Kevin, was with this, and I'm the fifth person on this slide. With this architecture, and now since 10 years, and now companies solving problems, and it works. And that's why I'm enthusiastic working with Jim and this community, ISSIP community. We want to bridge knowledge. We want to bridge the great knowledge base of service science and bring impact, give, get, grow for the communities. And that's the point, and it works. And that's the difference between telling about something should be made better or other and doing it. And we are doing it.
I might suggest that, as Clara indicated, moving from function to role is also the core adaptiveness that's necessary for people to be able to stay relevant in their organization. Is that, you move from being a job description to performing as a role in the organization that moves along with, the complex adaptive system that you're part of, right? And so while that's good for the material world and the service world, it's also really good for humans.
Exactly, I agree.
If you haven't discovered your role yet, start looking for it.
But yeah, let's pick up this and get a little bit more very concrete. So if you have a look to the companies today, Kevin, they are tech dominated.
Mm-hmm.
If you say why it's the people are very intelligent, even the most successful companies, not only insurance companies, they are grown over decades and they have complex systems and they have challenged to adapt, and they see it's not possible to adapt. If they now adapt one AI, they see we can work with our system of records. We can bring one use case, one very small experiment or proof of concept, but it's not an adaptation of the. So again, also this change and transformation, which is necessary, is coming back. So from the chain to the value constellation, what is the beneficiary, who is the beneficiary, what are the core elements, what is the role of the customer, of the partner, of the company, and all these processes, for all these processes, service dominant logic and service science are at the core.
Yeah, I think that's great. I might say, just from my own, where my head is right now, is when you held up the cup and you said, oh, look, it's liquid inside, I've already, kind of moved into quantum and, thinking about everything that you're holding is essentially an energy field, right? And, no matter what, the liquid is or the cup or anything else, they're energy fields that are interacting with each other. And so energy field interaction becomes the basis of the way that I think about how, the systems work, right? At least that's where my head is right now. Does that sound like the boundary of where this could go?
It's first of all, for me, it sounds very interesting, and I totally agree with your perspective of energy. I have to think it, to be honest. In my world, it is a bit more that asking what is the value proposition which connects the actors or the service systems, and then why is the energy arising? That is a little bit, but it's a very interesting.
As a brand guy that I started off, all right, I like the fact that you're using value propositions that are connected along a value chain. So we can compare notes about that. Let's go into Q&A now, because hands are starting to go up. I just want to remind you that ISSIP-Live is it's a new program from the International Society of Service Innovation Professionals, and it's currently sponsored by Content Evolution. We welcome other organizations to sponsor this program and the intelligent life that can gather to talk about service science. So we're delighted that you're with us today. If you're interested in becoming a sponsor or patron, get in touch with Jim or Michelle. They would be delighted to take your call. With that said, I see Christoph has his hand up. Christoph, come on in.
Yes, just a short question to Markus, because he was mentioning impact. And as some of you might know, we are working on impact for almost 20 years on the digital side, measuring 14,000 channels like search engines, social media, e-shops, and now also Gen AI channels to see what people are doing there. And this is indicating to us some kind of impact, that we learn how people take up things, how they take up new innovations like autonomous vehicles or new tech things. We can measure that, and some call it digital intelligence to go into military wording. But it's a very, very strong tool to measure impact. But how do you understand, or how do you measure impact? You mentioned it in your presentation. Thank you very much for sharing these interesting ideas. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Christoph. Great to have you in this session too. For me, impact is very simple. It is always unique and defined by the beneficiary. So if it says, maybe if you are very experienced in measuring, if you have a systems perspective, you have to define what's the state of the system and which kind of change do you expect, and then to try to measure the impact which a process brings. If you normally, like me, work with people and humans, you have to specify at the beginning what is the value, and the value in use, the value in context you expect, and then really to get this impact. And that's a great mind shift in Germany in the moment, and it's in US it's known as working backwards by Amazon about for many years, but it is working backwards to say, if you want this kind of impact of value for the beneficiary, what kind of roles do the different actors have? How looks the process end to end? Which kind of services are part of the process? For me, a process is always an accumulation of single services. And we think humans give their services, technologies, AI give services, and we bring these services together and build solutions that And the impact at the end is the decision or received by the beneficiary, and that's normally the person who giving the order to change something in my environment.
Okay, but I continue to ask questions because this can be quite tricky in some cases. For example, when you think of somebody creating a website for one of our big customers, if you ask the agency, they will tell you it's the best website of the world, and they are happy. You would say high impact, and the customer has to believe the agency and says, okay, I'm running the best website of the world. If we measure it, we sometimes must say there's no impact or almost no impact because it's technically not functioning, it's not working, the content is not there that people are interested in, and many things have no impact at all, or zero impact in some cases. Even it's really critical for critical missions, but and Google tells you are successful, you are the greatest, and you pay for it, and everything is fine, but nothing is fine. So, and then in such cases, it's difficult when you take the people as a benchmark to measure impact. Whereas when you take the data, I agree. When you take your coffee machine, the first the pre-measurement is no coffee, and the second is an Italian coffee. That's nice. So you can say, okay, great impact. That's fine,
Okay, there was a small misunderstanding, Christoph. Thank you for coming back. That is, the people define when they are happy with the solution and the impact. So let me take the example in the case of Clara's example, the CEO of Börsenzeitung in Germany says, if we want to switch from a print medium to a digital community platform, I expect to be happy. I expect a conversion rate of this percent from our customers from the print. I expect this kind of interactions. I expect this kind of revenue. This person defines very exactly KPIs, but at the end, he defines it. One actor defines this, and we work for him. And if he is fine, if the beneficiary is fine for me, then we have impact. That was the intention. Okay, great.
Christoph, did that slake your thirst, right? On the answer there? You good? All right, fantastic. I'm going to ask, let me just see here. Shimada-san is with us from Japan. Shimada-san, glad to have you. You have a question for Markus.
I listened to the Markus at the Istanbul conference, and we just I talked about the relationship between the knowledge and values and thinking process, which varies among the person. And if you bridge the gap between the findings or creation of the service to the implementation of the service, how do you encounter the variation of the differences of people consisted of the service systems? That's a little bit vague question to Markus.
First of all, hi Kazu, great to have you in this session too, and hi Deb. And sorry for me, I forgot you to introduce. Deb is a fantastic co-chair on the track of HSSE and the RHFE conference. So great that you are in this call, Deb too. And Kazu, thank you for this question. So I think if we define what should be the value proposition and who is the beneficiary, we then derive, working backwards, which part and role had every actor in this game to get the value proposition and the process as wanted. So we work backwards and derive the role of each actor and the services he has to give. So maybe a customer has to supply documents. A partner has to give his AI competency. The company has to give input with its documents too, and then build some data and bring all together, something like that. So try to answer your question in this way, that the role of each actor depends from the value proposition and from that what we want to create for the beneficiary. And we always work back and then define the services expected from each actor.
I see. So we need to define the, what can I say, aiming target actors. Yeah, but my big consideration is even if we define the actor or beneficiaries, there's a kind of ecosystem filled by the different actors, which has different values and different knowledge, and it might be very complicated process in order to work together with all actors to create the value in these service systems. And I gradually considering about we need to not only creating the service systems and service process, but also, what can I say, shaping the common sense of values among the people or among the system might be important. This kind of bottom-up and top-down approach might be very important, but I don't explain how we can do that. That's my consideration.
Yeah, thank you very much. Jim
Thank you.
Spohrer has his hand up. Kazu, thank you very much for being with us. Appreciate it, Shimada-san. Jim.
I come back, Kazu. I come back to your question. Jim.
Thank you.
Yeah, I was just gonna maybe clarify for people. Kazu has a great paper in the human side of service engineering as well. And his question comes from the perspective in his paper. And there's a very nice diagram in that paper that I think shows the knowledge and value. And I'll just be very brief, but Markus and I have discussed this, Kazu, in the context of TSRDM. One of the biggest frictions of change is when people have to change their identity. And that change of identity can sometimes be very hard for an individual who defines themselves in terms of certain sets of knowledge or certain values. To make those changes is very hard. And within the service systems, and it's really, like you say, it's an ecology. It's many, many different service systems interacting because each person is a service system, giving and getting and growing in their service. But that change is really hard. And the more we understand how to make that identity change a win-win for the individual and for the department and for the company and for the ecosystem, getting to those non-coercive win-wins is where we want to go. And just if I can say one more thing, the problem with current identity change is usually there's a gatekeeper, someone in authority who demands the identity change. And that feels bad to the individual if they don't see the win-win. So I'll just leave it at that your paper and TSRDM I see is really very relevant and connected. So thanks for the question.
Yeah.
All right, Markus, back over to you. All right, what your perspective?
Thank you very much, Kevin. I thank you, Jim, too. Yes, first of all, I have to say, I'm not experienced in this field of democracy and the actor constellations. Kazu is exploring very intensive, and that's a learning for me. And therefore, thank you very much, Kazu. It's the same by Christine and Christian Stiefmüller in the public sector. But from my perspective, the interesting aspect is we are all engaging in social practices and we are shaping institutions. And these institutions are at the core. And there we find all together. My perspectives work in the organizational and economic context work very fine. But in your field, Kazu, I learned from you, but I'm really enthusiastic about our discussions like in Istanbul, and I hope we proceed with that, because there are other core mechanisms behind in your area of exploration. And yeah, thank you very much for that from my perspective.
Very good. I see a couple of other folks that we haven't heard from. Jeffrey Borek, you want to jump in and join the conversation? If you're not there, you're certainly welcome. Andrew Spagni, you want to ask a question for our conversation today? Glad to have you.
Sure. Hey, Marcus, very interesting work you're doing. That's really great. Thank you. I've been looking at how organizations improve performance for a long, long time. And I'm also very interested in service innovation, of course. I am, however, discouraged by the fact that most of the work I see is incremental improvement. Corporations looking for 10, 20% level of improvement. To what extent have you seen 3x, 4x type of significant change? Is that something you've worked on at all?
Yeah, to be honest, Andrew, I have the same experience, but in the last 2 years, I see it just maybe again to service innovation, that we have the same picture on this term. It's a new combinations of services. Can we go this way? That often the result of a kind of resource density, so bringing services and capabilities together, facilitating new combinations, new value propositions, and then service innovations with impact. So if we talk about this kind, I have exactly the experience like you over many years. But since 2 years, and I would like to emphasize here, Volker Grun, he's the founder of Germany's #1 software company called Adesso. We built in this way, demonstrated as a services thinking and the service system thinking. We use services as structuring paradigm and allocate the services to the architecture called service dominant architecture. And in this case, we bring the services in a way together, Andrew, that facilitates the combination of services and service innovations. So we build a service catalog, and the demand from the market is very, very strong. So I'm now hopeful with proceeding digitization that we get this service system, service science thinking, our approaches of services, that we can shift and bring them together in the kind of systems like an SDA, and then build service innovations as we expected.
Well, that would be very exciting, Marcus. I hope it works out.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. Thank you very much for jumping in. Let me just see if Obina Anya is available to join us. Glad to have you with us, Obina.
Thanks everyone. Thanks Marcus for this. I have a question which I don't think might be directly related to the study, but I think is important nonetheless. In terms of how AI does support the service innovation, or particular to businesses, several studies have shown that most businesses are not driving the expected impact. There was one study from The Economist, commissioned by Databricks, who was saying that while CEOs accept, they're saying that about 67% are really investing in AI into their services, only 21%, 1 in 5, are driving the expected impact in their service enhancement. I'm curious to know how is service innovation and particularly ISSIP going to kind of, what is the contribution? Like Andrew was saying, he's been in performance, business improvement for decades. So how, in my question is that AI is not bringing the expected improvement in business innovation in services. What do you think is the problem? What could be done to really, from the point of view of service innovation, to bring this? I know it does take some gradual process, but AI has been around for this new one for years now, and I think most businesses are still struggling. So I'm curious to know, what do you think is the problem? What could be done to enhance this?
Thank you. That's a good question. Markus.
Obina, thank you very much. It's exactly the main focus of my day-to-day business, to be honest, because the core problem is that companies and organizations are tech dominated today. And if you integrate AI, it is a process of siloed and small effects. There is no impact for the customer. And to be honest, exactly with your numbers, that's the numbers I know too, there is no business impact too. So we have frictions, a lot of translational gaps and frictions to overcome for creating impact. But I see maybe just a short recommendation, the paper from Heinrich Fritzler we can bring it into this chat later. Was explaining exactly how OVB in Germany overcomes this AI experimentation trap. I'm convinced you should build a small digital platform on top of the company. It is minimum invasive. Why? First of all, a platform gives you the chance to switch from a value chain to a value constellation. It is not the target to work with AI into the old processes. All the slogans, digitization of bad processes, digitized bad processes, and all this. So first of all, you have to enable the company to switch from a value chain into the value constellation. And the second thing is exactly what Jim mentioned and what is the enthusiasm of the TSRDM methodology and community is, then work backward from the person and an actor you want to bring impact to. Look, how should the process be designed? Which role has each actor? Which services are necessary? And only build the missing services, to come back to part one of our hour here. Only build the missing services on the platform. So it's the platform in Germany, the spendings from 30 to 50,000, not more, necessary to go away from the siloed system of records where impact is very hard to achieve, into a digital platform, value constellations, and end-to-end digitized processes. That would be, in a short way, my recommendation, Sabina.
Thank you, Markus.
I think that's a very, very comprehensive view. We're getting up to the top of the hour. I'm going to ask Jim and Clara to come back in here. As we think about this, Clara, what's the big takeaway that you get from the time that we've spent together this morning and afternoon, right, for our guests, right, and you? So
can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you fine.
Okay.
Right, and then I'm going to ask the same question of Jim. So what's the big takeaway, all right, from Markus's remarks today? Clara.
I think that the best takeaway from my side is to go more in depth into the human side of this framework. When he was saying, of course, he introduces the architecture, which refers to the structure. I think that even from the service science perspective, we should focus on the human side. And so the human element means that according to the importance of the role perspective, we have to, for example, try to measure even the relevance of humans. I mean, before Caso was talking about the identity and the importance, even Jim was talking about the, if I took well the message, it's important to measure in a certain way the identity change. So how could we measure this? Probably trying to understand and to map all the stakeholders according even to the relevance that these stakeholders can have among the several actors or stakeholders that are involved in the service systems. So I think that this can be insightful to go more in depth into the framework, clarifying the perspective from which we are observing this impact. So probably I would try to make some more analysis by this way. I hope I was clear in my in my view, but I will talk more with Markus, with Jim, with Kazu, with everyone who could be interested. But I think it's important to try to measure the identity change. So probably this could be even, a way to specify from which perspective we are observing, like a meta perspective or a top-down, bottom-up, or even macro and meso level.
Very good. Marcus, that sounds like a one good summary for you?
It is great, and it's exactly what I think ISSIP, my person, are trying to do, where we strive to go. But we have to apply some kind of methodology like discussed today. But totally agree. Thank you very much.
I like the more fully human, emphasis that you're providing, Clara. Jim, provide another perspective. All right, what did you take away from our time together today? You're on mute, sir.
Sorry. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I think the point that Clara brought up right at the beginning about case studies, and Clara, I know you're working with Markus for the Naples Forum Conference that's coming up, and hopefully there'll be more case studies in there. But one other thing that Markus suggested that the ISSIP community work with on, and I'm happy to help, of course, is a TSRDM Innovation Award for case studies. So we might start for Europe, especially focused on Europe, because we want to get more. A lot of our Excellence in Service Innovation Awards, that covers the U.S. pretty well. But we want something that's really going to help Europe get more involved in ISSIP, and I think a TSRDM type of award there. Markus, I don't know if you want to say more about your thinking of it, but I think it's a great direction to go, to have some sort of an award or case studies in this area, and try to, get more regions of the world maybe creating their own awards in this area as well. I mean, my takeaway is, Markus has grabbed the bull by the horn. He's got a very nice metaphor for showing what translational services mean. Very, easy to understand level, but this is probably the most complex thing, right? Is change. Is how do you go from new discoveries to a changed reality that has those new discoveries benefiting people? And so, Markus, thanks for grabbing by the horn and really working hard on this really hard problem. And I agree with Christoph that impact measurement is really hard.
Yeah, 100%. It is an area ripe for new KPIs rather than the ones that have a lot of barnacles on them, right? That we continue to press into service. All right. So, Markus, you have the last word, all right? What do you want us to take away from our time together? We're delighted that you were with us, and think about this. What is the one thing that you're in need of connecting with to advance both your scholarship and your advisory services? What is missing that you haven't been able to find or connect with yet?
So first of all, thank you, Kevin, for your great moderation. And I would like to give the last word, not to me, but back to you to to Jim, to Clara, to the whole community of ISSIP. And I think it's exactly what Clara and Jim at the end highlighted. And Jim's approach, we now have to get more impact for our ISSIP community. We have really to get the bridge from service science to impact, to real life projects, to case studies, to use cases. And if we can push this all together, I think the ISSIP community will really get even much more. It is a great community today, but then we will have and get much more impact, and that's what I wish. And I really like Give, Get, Grow, this great slogan from ISSIP. So I have to say thank you to the community, and I'm happy if I could give a little bit back to the community today.
Well, we're
Yes,
delighted that you
maybe
did that.
Michelle can tell something about, she is the ventilator, of ISSIP, and she could tell us some words about this function.
Thank you. I'd love to see more Markuses in our network. Gracious, just doing the work, bringing it to the community, sharing, making these case studies, metaphors that help people understand what the work is, and bringing it to all of us, right? That's just helping us understand it and transferring that knowledge to impact, helping people, helping business, making the world better. That's what we're about, really.
Yeah, I think that the era of the consulting firm delivering a PowerPoint deck and saying, "Here you go, we'll see you in a couple of months," all right, that's over, all right? That you need to get involved and make the action you're recommending happen, right, for the client. So I'm 100% about that. And when I mentioned Michelle earlier, this is the Michelle, right? If you have an inclination to support ISSIP, she is in that mode right now, and we would be delighted to have you get in touch with her to support ISSIP-Live or ISSIP itself as an organization. So with that, Markus, thank you so much for being with us. Everyone, give, get, grow. All right, do that, and we will be back next month. Take care. Cheers.
Cheers. Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. Thank you for inviting. Thank you. Bye-bye.